Guild Wars 3 has finally been announced, and the beta is coming to us in the fall of 2027. Now in this video we're going to go over all the information that we got from the announcement, and we're going to break down the trailer, the concept art, and the blog, and the other information that we received for the entire Guild Wars franchise. Because yep, we have Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 news that we're also going to cover in this video. But before we get started, there's two things we need to keep in mind. Number one, that this is really early when it comes to Guild Wars 3, meaning there is no way we can pass judgment on whether it's going to be good or bad. Number two, because it's so early, I do feel like this is the appropriate time to list any concerns that we see so the developers can either clarify, say, hell no, this is actually going to be much better, or if something is bad, the developers will be able to pivot and make the changes that the community wants. So there's going to be a little nuance when it comes to this video. It's not exactly black and white. And one last thing before we get started, if you want to see more Guild Wars content on this channel and hear me yap especially about Guild Wars 3, because we are going to be playing this game basically full time when it comes out and following the news, well then consider hitting that beautiful like and subscribe button, and let's get started. All right, first off, we're going to start off with breaking down the announcement trailer. If you haven't seen the trailer yet, I recommend going to watch that, because we're not going to watch it silently. We're going to watch it, be pausing and talking about my thoughts on everything that's going on. But there will be also timestamps below, so if you don't want to watch the trailer impressions, just go ahead and jump to whatever section you want. But let's get started here. And first thing you're going to notice is how all this like nature, this lush foliage, kind of reminds me a little bit like New World. Maybe not the best impression there, considering New World is closing down. But the other thing is this character on this mount here. Immediately, just the foot stomps, the noises, sounds just like a Warclaw. And that makes sense because Guild Wars 3 is going to really emphasize movement. Things like vaulting over things, sliding, climbing. That's what they said in the blog. So having a very agile mount kind of makes sense. I hope they don't do a flying mount, but a really reliable ground mount. That sounds pretty good. But let's continue. I guess something else we can kind of mention here is this art style. This is kind of a good stopping point. This looks a little bit too clean, and honestly, it reminds me a little bit like High Guard, another dead game. So we've made two dead game comparisons right now. I don't think it's a huge deal, but this is something I'm going to be personally looking for when they start releasing more screenshots and gameplay, is the art style, because ArenaNet I think has a, with Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2, very strong art styles, very stylized. They age really well in my opinion, and so I kind of am thinking, we want the same thing for Guild Wars 3, but there is a lot of detail here. Even in this paused image, you can get a pretty good, details of the, I don't know what they call the front of their face there, but it is high fidelity. So again, not a deal breaker, but something to keep an eye out for. But let's continue here, because we're going to go between in-game and then this like tapestry here.
We all have our own reasons for coming to this vast frontier.
And they're just going to kind of say some generic, I would say, fantasy things.
We who protect this land.
Now this is interesting. If we want to back up just a hair there, there's this wizard.
For our guild,
and
we who protect this
I would say
land.
the typical Gandalf wizard type of archetype isn't really a Guild Wars thing, even though we have wizards. So this is interesting. And also, this setting here is 1,000 or 1,000 some years before Guild Wars 1. So this is in the past, actually. I have some thoughts on that as well. But so maybe returning to more of a whimsical fantasy setting, which I'm totally in favor for, because I think Guild Wars 2 leans a little bit too much into the sci-fi and technology. So a return to or a reimagining with a more whimsical fantasy element with a lot of magic. That sounds pretty good. But let's continue here. Again, this tapestry kind of reminds me of
stands above all
Norse mythology, something like that.
Our wonder.
But yeah, looking here, we just pause a few times. Again, still same thing as far as a lot of landscape, a lot of nature, not a lot of civilization. I mean, this looks good for, I say, because it said it was all captured in engine. Pretty high fidelity as far as the foliage.
We feel it too. We see it in light.
Big mountain there. Look at the climbing here, by the way. You can see his boots are lit up, and then also his hand is lit up. So he's using some sort of magic to kind of traverse this cliff here, climb up it. And I think that can work, because there's games like Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom. And then we also have something like Genshin Impact that have you able to climb these flat cliff sides. So doing something like that in an MMORPG, that sounds pretty good. I haven't played too many MMOs that let you do this, or really any at all. So this is something that, again, they were emphasizing as far as movement and momentum to basically traverse anything. So kind of excited for this
At the
actually.
astonishing power that shapes this land.
And this is just this is actually a very beautiful vista. I didn't really, watching it now in like 4K, but you really get the scale of the distance. The lighting I think is good too. Again, maybe it's just the player character here that I don't think is stylized enough. Because I think the environments actually do look really good as far as their fidelity. But yeah, maybe the character here is the one that's kind of like hanging me up. But the armor there kind of looks very like old school Guild Wars, especially with that pauldron and then the kind of like spikes on the gauntlets there. But again, same type of theme of very lush vegetation, naturey.
At the
Continuing with
great
the
spirits
tapestry.
to whom we are bound. At the gods
Here we go.
who hold dominion over all.
Let's stop this right here. The gods that hold dominion over Or. So again, set in the past. From left to right, we have Dwayna, we have Abaddon. This looks like Doom to me. We have Lissa, we have Balthazar, and then my face is covering Melandru here. These are the 6 human gods. And I'm very excited that they are probably going to be another important story point in Guild Wars 3 because the human gods are very interesting, very mysterious, kind of hands off, don't really interact with us too much, but they are something I think Guild Wars, the franchise, does really well as far as keeping them mysterious and cool. So hopefully maybe we don't get too much of them, but let's continue on there. But I love that they are, again, being mentioned here in this old school tapestry. Look at them. Looks cool. I like this. We have some dude doing some things.
Or even your safety.
So something nice there. You see, okay, so we got the Eden with the 2 faces, and I like the Guild Wars 2 Edens, or I guess the Guild Wars 1. But 2-handed sword, great swords confirmed. Everybody, we're gonna have great swords because in Guild Wars 1 we don't have great swords. Guild Wars 2 we have great swords. Guild Wars 3 it looks like we're getting great swords. So just confirming that. But this doesn't say too much.
But if you
Oh, okay, here we go. Hang on. Right here. So what do we have here? Do we have all the playable races? Obviously, human. I'm all about that. We have a Coden, almost like a what are they called? The lowland Coden, a little more burlier. This right here, I don't know, maybe it's not the greatest shot, but is this a dwarf? A female dwarf? I can't really tell. And then we have this gizmo gremlin looking thing, which kind of screams an Asura, like a furry Asura, which, okay. Now, if these are the playable races, yeah, I kind of feel for the players who have maybe really gravitated towards the Char or the Solvari or even the Norn, because it doesn't, at least in this shot here, giving the impression that it is, that these are the playable races. Maybe they're left behind, which would make sense if this is set in the past, but who knows yet. But this is just kind of like, again, first impressions. Anyways, I think they look good.
horizons unexplored.
And then take a note here. Sorry, there's another Vista shot, but in the left here, you got people gliding. That is another thing they mentioned as far as like the movement and momentum is being able to glide. So not only are we going to get like this Warclaw looking mount, we're going to be able to climb cliff sides, again, vault, slide, and then glide. That sounds really good, but in an MMO setting, I'm a little nervous if there's like 100 people on screen. How is that going to translate? I think if anybody can figure it out, it's ArenaNet. But beautiful vista here. This honestly doesn't look too like Guild Warsy to me as far as like this, I don't know, the spire here. You can also see another like Orion ring in the background there. Maybe that's like a tower or something like that. But yeah, this looks almost like a different franchise in my opinion. Well, let's continue. And then
For fellowship.
I think they call this a seeker. It's something like the spirit of the land. And if we're going to talk about spirits of the land, the spirits, that's a big like Norn thing. But I don't know. I don't see any Norn here. Anyways, so we'll continue on. But also what made me think that this character is a dwarf, maybe it's a little bit taller than the Asura. It's kind of hard to tell because the other human, they're on the mount. So again, and the Coden over there is a little bit further down. So it's hard to get like a size comparison, but I think I'm still sticking with the dwarf for that other character.
Purpose. For a cause worth dying for.
So again,
To you, we can
it does, again, kind of looks like those are the playable races. Human, Asura, Or maybe dwarf Asura. Ooh, maybe I don't know anymore. That doesn't look so much like a dwarf anymore. I am changing my opinion on the fly. I don't know. But I definitely see the Coden. I see a human, and I see an Asura. Maybe one of them is a dwarf. It's hard to tell. But also down here in the tapestry, I don't know if we saw it earlier, but that character has a bow. Bow's confirmed, everybody. We got the wizard, we got the archer or rogue, ranger, whatever you want to call it, ranger, hopefully. And then we have the warrior, kind of the traditional fantasy archetype. Also, that spire, right where my face is, I can actually move myself right here. So everything that was shown in the gameplay kind of, illustrated here. Also in the tapestry. Same with this building here. I think this is supposed to like symbolize Ara, the capital of Or. So everything I think we want, or everything that we see in the gameplay section is right here in the tapestry section as well. Let's keep going. Oh, that's really about it. Magic. And it just seems, a little more whimsical. The fact that they talk about believing in magic, less about technology, and this big threat almost feels like a time period of like exploration, which is different. Definitely is different. But that announcement trailer, the only thing that kind of has me a little bit nervous is the art direction. Looking a little bit too clean, looking a little bit too much like Unreal 5. Again, not a deal breaker, nothing to, sound the alarm about, but something to take note of, and we'll see how it, progresses going forward as more information, trailers, screenshots, etc. come out. But yes, I think I'm very excited about this. I want to see more. That's kind of what the announcement trailers are like a teaser trailer is supposed to do. I want to see more, so I think good job. Now let's move on to the blog section where we get more information that it tells us the time period, and then again talking a little bit more about that movement and momentum system that they're really hammering home. All right, so taking a look now at the actual Guild Wars 3 website where they kind of give you a spiel about Guild Wars 3 here, you can actually see in the top right hand there that this is coming to Steam and PlayStation, PS5. So it's going to be a console release as well, which makes sense because it seems like with Guild Wars 3 here, they're leaning more into the action combat side. I kind of make a couple parallels maybe to like New World and how their combat was. And maybe that's something we should be leaning into as far as our assumptions so far. But here's the first like concept art here. Again, the kind of ore ring. We got that Akoden and then the furry Azura. I don't know what else to call them right now until we get some confirmation. But this concept art, very cool. Again, kind of clean, kind of very clean looking. Looks very different to Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2, I guess is what I should be saying. But also note, there's some sheep up there. They are in a very dangerous position if you're asking me. So maybe they should somebody should help them down. But anyways, very lush. One of the key notes here is get your first look at the untamed land of Or. So very early on, maybe when the human gods brought the humans right to Or is where this story is picking up. We already kind of looked at the trailer there, but a new era to explore. Guild Wars 3 takes place more than 1,000 years before the original game. That's Guild Wars 1, giving new players and longtime Guild Wars fans a vast frontier to explore, imbued with magic and alive with a vitality of the wilds. So again, kind of that new frontier vibe. And I think it's interesting that we're going technically back in time. I'm wondering how we're going to bridge that Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 3, or Guild Wars 2 to Guild Wars 3, and how they explain that in Guild Wars 2. We don't know that just yet, but I was thinking that this was going to be in the future only because we just played the core Guild Wars 2 story, and a big plot point is at the end there when Traherne cleanses Or and the land, and we see it kind of growing back some of that lush vegetation. And so I thought Guild Wars 3 would be set in the time where Or is like finally restored as far as the land. But nope, we're going backwards. So again, same concept art as before, but play unbound. Glide, ride, and wall run your way across the open world with a movement and momentum system unlike any other MMORPG. And then in the Steam page, they say slide as well, which they don't mention here. So looking at the different release informations, you get a little bit more detail there. But for the first time ever, you'll be able to experience Tyria on both PC and PlayStation 5. We've built a combat system designed to feel incredible no matter how you play, whether you're using a controller or mouse and keyboard. Again, if you're using a controller, not that something like tab target can't work, but they clearly want to go with more of an action-based RPG system that meets Guild Wars 2 build making. And people might think that's difficult, but Destiny 2, first person action game, and they have a crazy good buildcraft system. Another dead game, actually. Damn, we're 3 for 3 on my references. I don't know if that's great. Anyways, I think it'll be fine. But I love that they mentioned the buildcraft, because Guild Wars, I love the buildcraft in Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 1. It's kind of what makes me stick around with those games, because all the little different things you can do to make your characters tailored to exactly how you want to play, or whatever RP fantasy you're going with. Now this concept art here, man, this looks cool. This is a cool vibe. You got this giant with these, you know, bark armor, horns, and then you have this almost looking Dark Souls looking dude with a lightning sword or something blowing off his hand. I want to see more of this. I want to see this in game. I want to see this in the engine and what's going on here. This looks cool. Anyways, they have what comes next. Today's just the beginning. We're gonna have we have lots of questions, obviously, and they're gonna be answering them in the weeks to come. Specifically talking about the timeline and why we're going back instead of forward. So that's this initial blog out of the way. Now we're going to jump into some of the concept art that they didn't show in the announcement or in this blog here. So yeah, with the announcement, they actually released this little press kit here where you can get all the Guild Wars 3 logos that they've been working with. I kind of like the one that they went with, which is this first one here, but you have a cleaner one with the GW and the 3 in the background, and then that one that's all like horizontal. So if you're a content creator, look up this press page, because these are, you know, this is a good image of the Guild Wars logo. But we have some concept art pieces here that they did not show off with the announcement, and the first one here makes me very happy. This is a vibe. This is Balthazar. This is Balthazar at his prime. I'm pretty sure that's his brother's head, by the way, but this is Balthazar all in his glory when he is like basically at the height of his power, which unfortunately when we get to Guild Wars 2, he's not exactly there, but you can just see how huge and menacing he looks. And then he's got his hellhounds or his dogs next to him. Very, very cool. Shame they didn't actually show this one off. And then next up, we do have a more complete image of that teaser image that they showed off there, where we have this human here, or yeah, it's a human, on the mount that we're talking about. I don't know what the mount's called. I'm just going to call it a Warclaw. But also, you have like the full party over here. So maybe it is just 3 replayable races here, because yeah, again, the Furry Azura, the human, and then the Coden. This is a great vista here. Again, doesn't look very much like Guild Wars 1 or Guild Wars 2 as far as like the same universe. A lot of almost, again, more fantasy, more whimsical looking, like high fantasy, which either the other games are like a little bit maybe more grounded looking with these. Look at these high spires here, and then the rings. I don't know, this looks good. This is a good looking image. I like the vibe of this. Again, I want to see this translated into gameplay, and that'll come with time. I'm just impatient. And then the last concept art that they didn't show off was this one here, kind of just like a market square. Very, again, looking a little too clean in my opinion here. You can kind of zoom in. Again, yeah, that's an Asura. 100%. That's an Asura. You got some dude with the sword. I do like the more return to more fantasy base. Everybody with their plate mail armor. This is my vibe. Again, I don't think they're dwarves. I think I spoke a little too soon on that. I think we see the 3 playable races. But again, I like this look here. Maybe a little too colorful. I need a little dirt on this. But again, another concept art that we didn't get to see during the announcement. So the last thing about Guild Wars 3 is the fact that the open beta is next fall, 2027. And if you want a chance to get involved with that, you got to sign up on the website guildwars3.com. And then I guess you'll have a chance to actually participate in that. Some people maybe want to wait off for the full release, so you're kind of not spoiled. I understand that, but I'm going to be trying to get into that beta. I'm going to play a crap ton of it. But I think that's all the information on Guild Wars 3 we have at the moment. There is probably going to be more news articles, and maybe even some right now that release, when I release this video. So let me know in the comments below if I missed anything. Kind of give me your vibe about the game so far. Again, too early to tell on anything, but we should probably list or, speak up on any concerns we have. So again, the developers can either reassure us or pivot themselves to kind of, again, address any community concerns. But now let's talk about the Guild Wars franchise as a whole, Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2, because with Guild Wars 3, does that mean Guild Wars 2 is done? Nah, not by a long shot. So what's happening with both of the other Guild Wars games, Guild Wars 1 Reforged and Guild Wars 2? Because ArenaNet has come out and basically just told the entire community, hey, we're not abandoning any of our games just because we have, Guild Wars 3 coming out. So for Guild Wars 1, they've been doing the Reforge and they've been adding things like dungeons, and that's given them a lot of confidence to make even more content. I don't know if it's going to be in the form of an expansion, but maybe like an update like Winds of Change. But also, Guild Wars 1 Reforge has been made playable on Steam Deck and is also coming to your mobile device as well. So a lot of tech going on in the background for Guild Wars 1. And again, that's going to be receiving even more updates. Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 play completely different. So if you don't like Guild Wars 1 and you've grown more attached to Guild Wars 2, well, for Guild Wars 2, they've basically made the declaration that, okay, we're taking a year off from the yearly expansions and we're going to spend a lot of time polishing Guild Wars 2. So there's 4 main points that they're planning on doing. One of them, again, polishing up Guild Wars 2, all of the maps, some of the meta events, and they're going to be doing it by section. So starting with core Guild Wars 2 and then moving to Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, etc, etc. And holy shit, I almost forgot, they are going to go back and redo the Zhaitan fight. This is huge news because one of the biggest criticisms of core Guild Wars 2 and the personal story is the Zhaitan fight, and they're finally going to redo it and hopefully do it justice. So excited for that. One of the other initiatives that they're doing is creating a Hall of Monuments system to bridge Guild Wars 2 to Guild Wars 3 as far as achievements that you can bring over, similar to how you can bring over achievements from Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2. Same system there, so they're going to be building that. And then the third thing is they're dedicating like a whole section here to World versus World. They're going to work with the community to build and make a new World versus World map, which is huge, I think, because World versus World is one of those very unique things that Guild Wars 2 does for these big Zerg versus Zerg battlefield PvP, map game modes. Very exciting about that. And then the last thing they said that they were doing is creating a new open world map for the PvE zone, but another section of ore that they also said is going to bridge kind of, again, Guild Wars 2 to Guild Wars 3. So that's going to be very interesting, but a lot of confidence that they can run Guild Wars 1, Guild Wars 2, and Guild Wars 3 at the same time. And if you enjoy one game, you should be satisfied with it. The fact that it's going to be continuing support and the live service. And hell, if you want to jump into the other games, well, that's going to be supported too. And if you're like me, you already play Guild Wars 1, you're already playing Guild Wars 2, and yeah, we're going to sink a ton of time into Guild Wars 3. So that's kind of the news roundup, and it is a crazy time to be an ArenaNet fan and a Guild Wars fan, knowing that you're going to have these 3 iterations of the Guild Wars franchise to play at the same time. They all play way different from one another, and now we're going to get a more action-based version with Guild Wars 3. So very excited, especially for the fact that they are putting their foot down and telling everybody, hey, we are continuing Guild Wars 2. So if you still like that, you're fine. You don't have to move anywhere. You know what I mean? And that says a lot about a game company that they come out in this video and they say it. I'm very excited about it, guys. If you were looking forward to Guild Wars 3 and some big updates, again, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be covering a lot of Guild Wars 3. It's kind of going to be a main game on this channel, and probably going to start doing some more Guild Wars 2 thing to kind of get our foot in the door with the community. Next video, as far as for the Guild Wars 3 side of things, will be if they have like another big news block or something like that. But until then, yeah, thank you guys for hanging around this long. I appreciate the hell out of you. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Peace and take care.